Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're focusing our attention on a track that's really quite different for the band that made it. Almost a contradiction, you could say.
Yeah, we're sort of setting aside the usual System of a Down sound, that chaotic, aggressive, very political metal.
Exactly. And instead, we're going to analyze their hauntingly beautiful, hugely successful, but also pretty divisive rock ballad, Lonely Day.
It really is a fascinating pivot point for them. Yeah, you mentioned SOAD, and instantly you think Chop Suey,
Yeah.
or maybe BYOB, that kind of energy.
Right, that manic, often political critique.
But then you have Lonely Day. It came out as a single from Hypnotize in 2006, I believe.
That's right.
And it's completely different. They swapped that frenetic metal for something really internal, melodic, and just deeply melancholic.
And it was massive, wasn't it? Got a Grammy nomination.
It did, which, only fueled the fire for some of the hardcore fans.
Ah, the sellout cries. Or maybe just that they gone soft?
Pretty much. But our mission today is really to get past that surface level reaction. We want to treat this song, which seems simple on the surface.
Deceptively simple, yes.
Exactly. Treat it as a rich, multi-layered text. We're aiming to deconstruct its emotional story, its linguistic choices, and how it was actually put together technically.
And the context of who wrote and sang it is crucial here, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely paramount. This was almost entirely written and sung by the guitarist, Daron Malakian.
Which is a big shift from Serj Tankian usually taking the lead.
Huge shift.
Huh.
So instead of Serge's, polished, operatic, sometimes screaming style, you get Daron's voice.
Yeah.
Which is, well, it's unique. A bit nasal, quite vulnerable sounding, right up front.
And Serj is still there.
He's definitely present, yeah. But his role is almost purely textural, atmospheric. He's really in the background.
So Daron's confession takes center stage.
Right. And that change alone gives the song this raw, intimate feeling that, frankly, a lot of their other work doesn't quite have.
Okay, so let's unpack this lyrical journey then. The sources we looked at suggest it's structured almost like a three-act play, psychologically speaking.
Yeah, a defined path. It starts with this intense pain and somehow finds its way to survival.
All right, Act 1. We've called it the possession of pain. This is in the opening verses. The speaker kicks things off, not just describing his feelings, but making this really odd claim. Such a lonely day and it's mine.
That phrase, "and it's mine," it's rhetorically and psychologically probably the cornerstone of this whole first act.
How so?
Well, he's not just saying, I feel lonely today or I have a lonely day. Like it's a temporary state.
No, it's stronger than that.
Much stronger. He's appropriating the suffering, owning it. The source material really highlights this. It suggests this deep fusion, like his identity is merging with the suffering itself.
So it's not just something happening to him, it is him. He's claimed it, like property.
Exactly. An existential possession, as you put it. It suggests he's so deep in this emotion that it's become part of his reality.
Mm-hmm. It sets the whole tone then. This isn't just a bad mood.
No, this is profound isolation, that Soledad idea. It's not passing. It's his territory now, something he's accepted, maybe even unconsciously defined himself by for this moment.
And then comes the line, the one that caused all the arguments, the grammar line.
Ah, yes. The most loneliest day of my life. Proof of genius or just bad grammar?
Huh. Well, the critics certainly jumped on the grammar part, but our research suggests there's a strong case for it being intentional, right, as a rhetorical tool.
Absolutely. The consensus from the sources is that Daron knew what he was doing. It wasn't laziness.
So what was the purpose?
He was prioritizing raw emotional impact over linguistic rules. The idea is the pain he's trying to convey is just so huge, so intense.
That normal language failed.
Exactly. Just saying loneliest feels too neat, too contained.
Yeah, I get that. It's like when something is really bad, you just stack words. Very, very bad doesn't cut it, so you reach for something stronger, even if it breaks the rules.
Right. The most of the loneliest. The broken grammar itself becomes the sound of that raw, visceral feeling.
It's like artistic hyperbole.
Precisely. It's shouting that the feeling is bigger than standard description allows. It's primal. A more polished line might have actually weakened the impact.
And that rawness, that sort of perceived honesty connected with people.
Massively. Millions heard it and felt validated, maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes feelings are too big for proper sentences. It prioritizes the emotion.
Okay, that makes sense. And that feeling of honesty, that desperation, leads right into the next big moment in this first phase, the protest.
Yeah, the demand that this day should be banned and shouldn't exist.
Which is quite a leap, isn't it? From personal feeling to cosmic injustice.
It is. He moves beyond just feeling awful and starts protesting against the very existence of such a feeling, such a day. He's demanding the universe or society or someone acknowledge this level of suffering as fundamentally wrong,
Yeah.
an error.
Something that needs to be, like, legally removed.
Yeah, banned. It's not about finding a way to cope. It's about blaming the day itself, externalizing it completely.
The day is the flaw, not his reaction to it.
Total externalization. He's completely submerged in the misery, seeing himself as a victim of this thing that needs to be eradicated. It captures that feeling perfectly when pain is overwhelming. You just wish you could outlaw the whole experience.
So Act 1 establishes this owned, overwhelming, rule-breaking pain that he wants banned. Got it. But then Act 2, the bridge, shifts everything.
Abruptly, yeah.
It moves from this sort of abstract loneliness to a very specific cause. This is what we're calling the fulcrum of codependence.
Right, because suddenly the reason for the loneliness is revealed. It wasn't just cosmic blues. It's because of a you.
Someone is gone or lost. The abstract pain gets a specific interpersonal source.
And that's where the suffering's true, terrifying identity comes out. We pivot from general isolation to the specific agony of loss.
And then we get arguably the most shocking lines in the whole song.
And if you die, I want to die with you.
Yeah, chillin'. We really need to unpack that carefully because it's easy to just hear it as, overly dramatic romance.
It's so often misinterpreted that way.
Yeah.
But the sources are clear. It's crucial to understand what it's not. It is not the heroic, I would die for you.
Defending the loved one, no.
It's, I want to die with you.
Which is terrifyingly different.
Completely. The research points strongly towards this being about emerged identity. It suggests the speaker's sense of self is so wrapped up in the other person.
That surviving alone is literally unthinkable.
Inconceivable, yeah. His own existence just doesn't function without the you. This goes way beyond standard romantic expression into something much darker. Deep codependence, maybe a pathological fear of abandonment.
So if the other person is gone, his own life just stops having meaning or function.
It seems so. Self-annihilation becomes the automatic response. It's a statement of profound, perhaps frightening psychological entanglement.
Wow. Okay. That level of intensity definitely casts the next line in a different light. Take your hand and walk away.
The ambiguity there is poetically brilliant. Our notes suggest two main ways to read it.
Okay, what's the first?
The simpler one is memory. Just a longing for a happier time, an innocent past moment where they could just hold hands and walk away together, escape whatever problems existed then. A simple, nostalgic image.
But given the line right before it, there's a darker possibility.
Much darker. This interpretation links walk away directly back to the suicidal ideation.
So take your hand and walk away isn't about escape in life, but escape from life.
Exactly. The more tragic reading is that it's the shared plan. Let's take hands and walk away from this world, from this lonely day, which represents existence itself.
A joint departure.
Yes. And that reading locks the song into its absolute heaviest context, which in turn makes the ending, the resolution, feel even more significant.
Right. Which brings us to Act 3, the resilient resolution in the outro. We've been through the possession of pain, the despair, the codependent abyss. But the song doesn't just leave us there.
Thankfully, no.
It actually repeats the opening line. Such a lonely day and it's mine. But you're saying the meaning has completely changed by this point.
Fundamentally transformed, yeah. In that first verse, it's mine felt like a burden, a complaint, like, look what I'm stuck with.
But now, after contemplating dying and crucially not dying...
Now, it's mine sounds different. It's not a complaint anymore. It's a scar.
A scar? How do you mean?
It's an acknowledgement. This awful, traumatic day happened. It's now part of his history, part of his identity. He's claiming it not as a fresh wound that's actively hurting, but as a permanent mark that tells a story of survival.
Integrated trauma. Okay. And the final line really seals that shift, doesn't it? From victim to survivor.
It's a day that I'm glad I survived. Absolutely. This is the key. The narrative resolution.
It confirms the whole song is retrospective.
Exactly. It's being sung after the lowest point, after that abyss of despair mentioned the bridge has been navigated. The big achievement isn't sudden happiness.
No, it's much simpler.
It's the simple, almost brute fact of having made it through, of having persisted when death felt like a real, maybe even desirable option. The victory is just enduring.
That's a powerful way to reframe the whole thing. It stops being a song about being in despair and becomes a song about having come through despair.
Precisely. A testament to resilience.
Okay, so we've mapped out the lyrical journey. Now let's dig into the so what. Why does this particular story, this specific emotional arc, hit so hard for so many people? Let's widen the lens a bit.
Yeah, let's connect these lyrics to some broader ideas, starting with the psychology of that bridge. It's just packed with meaning.
That line, if you die, I want to die with you. Terrifying stuff. How does psychology help us understand it?
Well, it aligns pretty directly with concepts from the psychology of grief duello, as some sources term it, and also with attachment theory, particularly the more extreme forms.
Like disorganized attachment.
Exactly, or perhaps an extremely anxious, preoccupied style. It suggests a self that doesn't feel whole or sustainable on its own. The identity is completely bound up with the other person.
So it's not just, I'll be sad if you're gone. It's, myself ceases to function if you're gone.
That's the core of it, functional annihilation. The need for self-annihilation suggests this profound personal void. The other isn't just a partner. They're like the scaffolding, holding the speaker's entire identity together.
Take away the scaffolding.
And the whole structure collapses. It moves way beyond romantic notions into a really stark statement of psychological unsustainability without that specific person. Survival feels impossible alone.
And thinking about that level of dependency, the sources also brought up sociology, specifically Emil Durkheim. That seems like an unusual connection for a rock song.
It does at first glance, but Durkheim studied suicide extensively back in the late 19th century, looking at social factors.
Right, things like anime feeling disconnected from society.
Exactly. But the intense codependence in Lonely Day that I Want to Die With You points towards a different kind of social connection issue. It's not lack of connection, it's almost too much integration, but in a very narrow way.
How so? Too much.
Well, it suggests an overwhelming fusion where the individual self just loses all meaning outside of that one specific bond, if that bond breaks.
The whole world collapses because that bond was the whole world.
Pretty much. Durkheim might have called it a kind of fatalistic situation, or maybe an extreme form of egoistic integration where all value is tied to that single relationship. It shows the song taps into not just personal pain, but also the sociological danger, defining your entire self by one external connection.
Fascinating. Okay, let's pivot back to the language itself. That most loneliest line. We talked about intent, but how does semiotics, the study of signs, help us understand its impact?
Semiotics lets us analyze the grammar not just as a rule broken, but as a sign-carrying meaning. And that double superlative created what the analysis calls a sisma critico, a critical divide.
Meaning critics hated it, but audiences loved it.
Largely, yeah. Critics and language purists saw it as, clumsy or uneducated. But for the audience, that perceived error became a powerful signifier.
Signifying what, exactly, if not bad grammar?
Authenticity. Rawness. The sign the broken rule communicated something like, this feeling is too big, too real for neat, tidy language. It implicitly said the rules don't apply here.
So the imperfection was the message.
In a way, yes. It was almost like unintentional marketing brilliance. Its resonance proved that the affect, the raw emotional punch, mattered more to listeners than linguistic correctness. They heard honesty, not a mistake. It felt truer because it was slightly broken.
That really validates the artistic choice, even if it wasn't consciously thought out in semiotic terms at the time. Okay, speaking of rules and systems, let's revisit that demand. The day should be banned. The sources introduce a really interesting concept here, jurisprudence affectiva. What is that?
It's a compelling piece of analysis. Jurisprudence is basically the philosophy of law. So jurisprudence affectiva looks at how we borrow the language and logic of law, things like banning, legislating, criminalizing, to talk about and try to control internal subjective states, our affect, our emotions.
So he's using the language of state control, banning, for an internal feeling loneliness. Why is that philosophically significant?
Because law, traditionally, deals with external actions, things that affect society objectively. The speaker, in his utter despair, is demanding that the state's most powerful tool be used on something totally outside its proper reach, his private internal pain.
You can't legislate sadness out of existence.
Exactly. History shows systems like law and even medicine try to regulate deviant emotions, but they fundamentally can't control subjective experience directly. So that desperate cry should be banned perfectly captures the feeling of wanting external annihilation of pain.
While also highlighting the ultimate futility of that approach.
Precisely. The law can't ban a lonely day, which, interestingly, loops us back perfectly to the internal solution presented in outro. If the law can't fix it, what can? The answer the song lands on is pure stoicism.
Ah, stoicism. That makes sense. How does I'm glad I survived fit that philosophy so well?
Well, Stoicism, which is having a real moment again today, is all about the dichotomy of control, knowing what's up to you and what isn't.
External events versus internal responses.
Right. The speaker couldn't control the lonely day happening. That was external. He couldn't just switch off the pain. That was external, in a sense.
But the choice to endure, to resist the urge to walk away in that darker sense.
That was entirely within his control. That's the Stoic victory. Success isn't found by changing the external world, but by mastering the internal response, by choosing perseverance.
So I'm glad I survived isn't about finding happiness. It's about relief derived
From the act of resistance itself, the virtue of having endured when annihilation seemed possible, maybe even preferable. It's the philosophy of hard-won resilience, finding power in simply not breaking.
Wow, it really transforms the narrative arc, moving from demanding external control via law to finding internal strength through endurance. That provides a really satisfying closure. Okay, we've got the complex lyrical and philosophical layers sorted, but for a song like this to connect so deeply, the sound itself, the production, has to carry that emotional weight.
Absolutely. And this is where producer Rick Rubin and Daron Malakian really crafted something special. They built a sonic structure that perfectly mirrors that emotional roller coaster.
Using that classic rock dynamic.
Yeah, the loud, quiet, loud structure. But not just for variety, it's used specifically to echo the lyrical journey. They also keep it grounded. E minor, steady tempo, around 70, 72 BPM. It's almost hypnotic.
No crazy time signature changes like usual SOAD.
No, none of that. That consistency reinforces the feeling of being stuck, the cyclical nature of depression, perhaps. It traps you in that mood.
Okay, let's break down those dynamics. Start with the quiet parts, the verses. How did they engineer that feeling of intimacy, of confession?
The goal seems to have been maximizing the feeling of space, or rather the lack of it, around the voice. The verses sound very small, dry, centered. Daron's vocal is mic'd incredibly close.
You can almost feel him right there.
Yeah, likely a large diaphragm condenser capturing that proximity effect, putting his voice right in your ear. It feels confessional, almost claustrophobic.
And the instruments are sparse too. That clean electric guitar, people often think it's acoustic.
It does sound like it could be, but sources confirm it's a clean electric, probably using the neck pickup for that warmer, but still somewhat sterile tone.
Sterile, reinforcing the emptiness?
I think so. Not warmth, but vacancy. And the drums are minimal, just hi-hats, maybe some ghost notes on the snare. It forces you to lean in, focus entirely on Daron's vulnerability.
And then bam, the loud hits in the chorus, the sound just erupts.
Total transformation. This is where they use the full stereo field and heavy layering classic Rick Rubin. The sound becomes huge, overwhelming.
How do they get that wall of sound?
Multiple tracks of distorted guitar, probably Daron's signature Marshalls or Mesa Boogies, heavily saturated. And crucially, they pan these identical takes, hard left and hard right.
So it surrounds you.
Completely envelops you. It's designed to feel like an emotional impact, a storm breaking. And the rhythm section, held back in the verse, just explodes. Heavy compression on the drums.
Making the kick and snare hit really hard.
Incredibly potent. It provides that physical punch, reinforcing the feeling of being suddenly overwhelmed by the emotion. The volume, the texture, it fills every bit of sonic space.
Let's talk about Daron's guitar playing beyond just the rhythm. That solo after the bridge is interesting. It's not shreddy at all.
No, it's pure melody. A masterclass in emotional playing, not technical showboating. Its job is basically to sing the chorus melody one last time, wordlessly.
And the production helps that.
Immensely. It's drenched in sustained reverb delay, gives it this epic, soaring, almost lamenting quality. It hangs in the air before that final chorus hits. It's the emotional peak before the final resolution.
And the vocal dynamic between Daron and Serge, subtle but important.
Daron's the anchor.
Yeah, Daron's voice is the raw, suffering core, kept dry up front, embracing its fragility. Rubin often prioritizes that authentic, imperfect take over something technically flawless, especially for moments like this.
Capturing the human connection.
Exactly. Daron's specific vocal texture enhances that reality.
And Serge, the usual frontman, becomes the atmosphere.
Perfectly put. His harmonies in the chorus are almost ghostly. They're mixed behind Daron, treated with more effects, reverb delay, maybe some phasing.
So they sound ethereal.
Ethereal, yeah. Like an echo of the suffering, not the source itself. Daron is the person alone in the room. Serge is the reverberation of that loneliness filling the space.
That's a clever engineering choice. It reinforces the isolation theme even when the sound is huge.
It's like 3D sound design for emotion. You hear Daron's immediate pain and Serge's voice echoing around him, amplifying that sense of profound yet somehow acknowledged isolation.
And John Dolmayan on drums,
Hmm.
usually so complex. Here, he's clearly holding back in the verses. Intentional restraint, or contention as the notes called it. Minimalist hi-hats, maybe cymbal chokes, ghost notes, saving all that power.
For the chorus explosion.
Right. When the compression hits those drums in the chorus, all that pent-up energy gets released, providing the physical foundation for the emotional waves.
And guiding all this is Rick Rubin's overall philosophy. Minimalist but impactful.
His focus is always on finding that core emotional truth. Stripping away unnecessary digital stuff, often favoring analog warmth, capturing real takes.
Yeah.
And crucially, especially for the mid-2000s when the loudness war was raging.
Everything compressed to be max volume.
Yeah. Rubin insisted on keeping a decent dynamic range, maybe DR9, DR10, not squashing everything.
Why was that so vital for this song?
Because high dynamic range lets the music breathe. It makes the difference between the quiet verse and the loud chorus massive, visceral. The explosion feels real, not just loud. It preserves the emotional impact of that shift.
So the production really serves the narrative. It turns that apparent simplicity into a powerful, dynamic journey.
Definitely. The technical choices are just as much a part of the stories as the lyrics. It proves SOAD could channel intensity through melody, atmosphere, and structure, not just speed and noise. #outro.
So wrapping this up, our deep dive really shows that Lonely Day is, well, it's far more than just a simple sad song.
Absolutely. It's this complex, carefully constructed study of survival. It takes you, the listener, through owning pain, confronting that terrifying codependence, and ultimately landing on a kind of hard-won, almost stoic acceptance.
And the key takeaway, it seems, isn't about finding some magical cure or pretending the pain didn't happen.
No, not at all. The victory, as the sources suggest, is in the simple, honest acknowledgement that just surviving that worst day, the one that threatened to break you.
That act of survival itself is profound strength.
Definitive strength, yeah. It's a victory of persistence, endurance.
And the song ends right there, with that relief, I'm glad I survived. It validates the whole awful journey.
Which leads us to a final thought, maybe something for you, listening, to reflect on. If the song accepts the pain as a permanent scar, part of your story,
Not just a temporary problem.
right, then the question becomes, what's the real emotional cost of building that resilience? And how do you carry that scar, the memory of your loneliest day, forward without letting it completely define what comes next?
Thinking about the quiet power in just enduring, and maybe realizing that persevering through the worst, maybe that is the most important kind of success sometimes.
A provocative thought to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into System of a Down's Lonely Day.
We'll catch you next time.